Talk to me nice, talk to me honestly. Look in my eyes, don't let it fall on.
Good afternoon, sisters in sales, and welcome to this live workshop. Today you'll hear from myself and two other Salesforce leaders as we share our career journeys with you and offer top sales methodologies to close more deals. And who doesn't want to close more deals? Our sales teams reimagine what selling looks like. We serve the most trusted advisors. We serve as the most trusted advisors in the world to some of the most admired companies and also governments around the world. And we help these customers of ours help their customers and their partners and employees and citizens in a whole new way. My name is Valerie Chase Robert, and I am excited to virtually meet you. And before we dive in, let's just talk about a couple of housekeeping things. If you're familiar with Hopin, you can see that there's a function for chat. So if you would like to communicate with us, we want to make sure that this is fun and that we hear what you're saying, we hear your enthusiasm, your questions and things of that nature. Please use the chat to express yourself. And if you have questions, there's a Q&A function. Please use that for your questions. So let's get started. I'm Valerie Chase Robert, and I am a key account executive with MuleSoft. And I've been with the company for about 8 or 9 months at this point. And I'll share a little bit more about me. But before we get into that, would you please let us know where you are coming in from, where you're located, what industry you serve, and what are some of the tools that you sell. Hi, Dina Gardner. I'm glad you're looking forward to the session. Thank you very much. Hi, Miracle from Detroit. Excellent. SAS at LinkedIn. Great to meet you. And Austin, Texas, one of my favorite cities. Healthcare, great. And Sheila, say hi from Toronto. Nice to talk to you. Excellent. We have a group of people from around the country. Dallas, Texas. Excellent. DOD. I sold to DOD at one time as well. Excellent. Hey, Stephanie, London. All right. We've got folks from around the world. Glad you could join. All right. So again, thank you for providing your locations. Appreciate that. And again, we want to make this interactive. So don't hesitate at any time to chime in. And so I'm really excited to introduce the rest of my team. But before I do that, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm located in Washington, D.C., but I'm a native New Yorker. And I have been in the sales industry now since the late 80s. And I started with a large company by the name of IBM, which at the time was the largest IT company in the world. Since then, things have changed, and there are always new and exciting things happening in the technology sales arena. So the way I got started was I have an MBA in finance, and I was a financial analyst for IBM. And then at one point, they wanted to get their professionals closer to the customer. So they retrained me, and I became a systems engineer. And if those of you who are on sales teams and technology, you know, the systems engineer is the technical side of the sales team. And then I joined Oracle, worked there for 18 years. And 2 years into it, I took the leap and became a sales rep. And then through my career, I've taken the journey to sales leadership, as well as right now back to being an individual contributor here at MuleSoft, and I absolutely love it. So why don't I introduce the other leaders that are on the panel today? I'm really excited, and who can best introduce them but themselves? And so Brittany, I'll turn it over to you.
Hello all, I am Brittany Lumpkin. I'm an account executive here at Salesforce. I've been here for about 1.5 years now. So I'm in the SaaS industry now, but have experience selling technical IT to large enterprise and mid-sized companies when I came into Salesforce. So I sit out of Denver here, and prior to this role, I was actually at a company called Kforce. So the joke that I went from one force to another. And I was a graduate before then. So I kind of have another perspective of how you break in to sales and Salesforce these days. So I'm excited to be here with you. And I'd love to turn it over to Janae here.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Janae Dandridge. I'm an account executive at Tableau, which is the visual analytics company here at Salesforce. I support our United States Department of Defense customers. I'm based out of Detroit, Michigan. So I saw a few of y'all from Kalamazoo, Detroit, Lansing. So hello, neighbors. I first started my tech sales career at Oracle out in Washington, D.C. as a business development consultant. And then I came over to Tableau, where I was an inside seller, and I've worked here for the past 6 years, and I've gone from inside sales to the field with enterprise responsibilities. So really have progressed in tech sales over the past 7 years. I'm also familiar with the CIS community. I got introduced to the Slack community and network a few years back. So I'm really excited to be engaged in this capacity here today at the summit.
Great. Thank you, Brittany and Janae. Great. So let's get into it. We are going to, I'm going to ask the panelists some questions, and at the end, you will have the opportunity to ask us some questions. So again, please put those in the Q&A section, and we'll hit those in the last 5 minutes of the panel discussion today. So let's hop right into it. So to start things off, I'd love to learn what led you to your careers, ladies. What initially intrigued you about the work, and what specifically was the journey to the role that you hold now? How about you, Brittany?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I like to say that I had kind of a random journey into sales, right? I was a recent graduate. I was down a path of exercise science and wanted to go into further schooling. But what did I love more than schooling? I loved money. And I'm hardworking, really disciplined and intelligent, right? And sometimes there's a stigma of business not having intelligence, you know, or that people coming from other fields are smarter or what have you. So I was really interested in being able to take my mind into sales and just hustle. And so I started at Kforce, staffing and recruiting. It was a grind as far as sales goes, but I got a lot of great experience there. Strategic selling, value-based selling, and a great training program. And that opportunity led me to the mothership, I like to call it, which is Salesforce. So I support small business right now, but I came into Salesforce as a BDR. So that's a business development representative. I came in passionate, hungry, crushed it. And now I'm in my role that I'm in today, and will never look back. So loving sales so far. Thanks.
Thank you, Brittany. And so I did share a little bit about my background. And when I entered into technology, it really was the fact that I had joined a technology company that I got into technology because, you know, out of B school, my focus was finance. I knew nothing about, you know, computer programs. In my business school, yes, I had to do some coding, but that was like brand new to me because my undergrad was art history and French. We did not code, but so I did learn a little bit in grad school, and then joining a technology company as a financial analyst, it put me in the world of technology. And then from there, it was just taking one position after another that led to another. And, you know, kind of figuring out, you know, what aspects of being in technology were exciting to me. And essentially, you know, after I was on the technical side, folks continuously told me that I should be in sales. And when I wasn't sure if I wanted to take the financial risk, but one of my good sales sisters showed me what her December commission check was versus what mine was. And I said, well, maybe I should go into this field. So I did, and I never looked back. And it's just been a great experience. And here I am now as an account executive for MuleSoft. All right. So let's see. Next question. Can you share your experience navigating your sales career as a Black woman in the field? Are there key learnings you can share with women of color who are new to the industry? How about you, Janae? You want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. So I think I mentioned when I did my introduction that my first job was as a business development rep, which is a really hard job. You're literally cold calling 100 people a day, and it was really challenging in itself. And while I was doing that, I also didn't see many people who looked like me at the very top of the sales organization. And I took my first field sales job, and my entire extended team consisted of white men, and there was no one who looked like me. And so naturally I had those thoughts like, do I belong? And I really questioned myself. But at one point I took a moment to look at my circle outside of my direct team and, see that I had friends. And my first regional director back at Oracle, she's a Black woman who was a great mentor and showed me that there are other women of color in sales killing it, and that I could be one of them because I've been successful and I have the scorecard to back it up. And that scorecard in itself shows that I deserve to be in the space just as much as anyone else. So I guess what I would say is just lean into all of your community, look outside of the box, such as this organization, Sistas in Sales, right? And lean on those cheerleaders, and then own your success as a woman of color because you've earned that space because of your success.
Excellent. How about you, Janae? I'm sorry, Brittany. Thank you, Janae.
Yeah, so I would definitely echo a lot of Janae's sentiment there. You'll come into SaaS and essentially see that right now it's a boys club, right? Or white male dominated. And I think if you come into sales, you love a challenge, right? You're hungry, you're passionate about every opportunity that you have. And I think my experience has been being able to look at folks around me and know no one looks like me, but knowing what I have in my back pocket and the fact that I've faced so much adversity to be here, I take it as a challenge, right? That there's no one who looks like me, because I want to be able to show the next generation people who look like me at the top, right? So I think it's also our fight a little bit to fight our way to the top and start representing, some melanin. So I take it that way, but definitely surround yourself with your community and find some mentors, find your ways to get out of your bubble and your shell, because you can absolutely dominate in sales.
Thank you so much, Brittany. And so I would echo what my sales sisters have said. Absolutely, networking is extremely critical. And I would say primarily, first of all, bring your best self to work every single day, right? Because you don't know who's looking. They could be in your org, they could be in a different org, but you must bring your best self to work every single day. And then, set about the business of being the best, doing your homework, focusing in where you need to focus, managing your time, and all of the things that are critical to be successful. But just know that you really have to do and bring your best every day. And then in terms of networking, when I moved into sales, initially, I had gone within my organization, similar to what Janae was saying, to try to become a sales rep, moving from a systems engineering role to a sales rep. And I was blocked. I'll just be frank, I was blocked. So I went outside of my organization, and the person who gave me my opportunity was a white male who saw the value in me, and he gave me the shot. And I was one of the best salespeople that ever worked in that organization. And he's happy he did, because I put a lot of money in his pocket, but he believed in me and it happened. So look for where you can look for people who are going to be supportive and who see the value in you. So that's what I have to say about that. So next question, let me do a quick time check. All right. So it's always it's interesting to hear the different journeys that lead to a career at Salesforce. Switching gears though, I'd like to hear from the panelists about sales methodologies. That's really the topic of today. So the first method we are anchoring on is using data to drive your sales. So Janae, what advice can you offer on leveraging data to inform your sales strategy?
Well, I work at Tableau and we are a data company. So I really love this question and sales methodology because in our roles every day, we talk to executives about partnering with our company to lead with data. And I believe that sales professionals are CEOs of a business and we should take the same approach. I'm very fortunate to work at Tableau and Salesforce because the amount of data we have is infinite. And data analysis probably is intimidating to most sales reps, but I can walk you through perhaps like how I think about using data. And maybe you can kind of come up with some ways that you can use the tools that you have in your own roles to, guide your strategy. So for me, earlier this year, I took on a new territory. I got a new account list. And of course, with that came a quota. And when you get that, you say, okay, where do I spend my time, right? And so I really lean on data and the data that the company has around pipeline, how much money these accounts have spent and on what products to really come up with how I should set my strategy for the year to hit that target. So one of the first things I looked at was the pipeline. What's already in pipeline relative to my target? And then I also look at the historic close rates in my business. So I might look at the data and see it says that for my territory, for every dollar that's in pipeline, only half of that closes. But if my number's $1 million, I know that I need to have 2x pipeline in my business in order to hit my number. It has to be quality pipeline, right? So that's the first thing I said. I say, okay, this is how much pipeline I need to build to hit my number. And then I walk through, okay, well, how do I get there, right? So I look at the data to look at the business and come up with that prospecting plan. So some very simple questions I might ask is, okay, what is the historic spend of each of these accounts? And it's a very basic question, but some reps will look at that and say, oh, this account spent a lot of money. I shouldn't spend much time there. I should look at the more greenfield open space. Or they've spent a lot of money. This is a good strategic partner for us to go enterprise. And then I look at within the account, okay, who bought the solution? Was it the innovation office? Was it HR, finance? And who didn't buy the solution that might have a need that aligns with our business and what we provide as a solution provider? And then I look at what did they buy? So did they buy just tech and not training, or did they buy part of the tech platform? What's the white space as far as product? And then when did they buy? So did they buy 3 years ago and it's been crickets, or did they show incremental growth over the past few years that would make them prime for a strategic partnership discussion, right? That you want to put all your resources towards. So those are just some very kind of high level questions that I look at when I start to dive into the data. But I think you'll find that once you get that data and you naturally start asking those high level questions, you're going to start asking more and more. And that's really going to guide your sales strategy, how you align your internal resources, and how you engage with your customers. And I think if you do that, and I found that if you do that, and most folks at Tableau will tell you the same, if they use those resources, they'll find success and gain some credibility with their accounts.
Thanks very much, Janae. All right. Thank you. Next one is value-based selling, one of my personal favorites. The method is all about identifying your customers' needs and aligning the solution to add more value to their business. So can you share some top tips to excel in value-based selling?
I'll take that one. So I love this topic. I think I was really fortunate in my first sales role to go through a really structured sales training and define a process that could be rinsed and repeated, right? So I think lots of people get so focused on different methodologies and you'll hear Medic and Sandler and things of that nature. But I think as far as how you can bring the most value to your customers is truly listening, right? And we all say that start with the fundamentals of listening. Don't get caught up in your presentation, in the analysis paralysis. But with that listening comes defining your own framework, structuring a conversation so that you could be that trusted advisor for your buyer or your partner, right? Define a sales process that's going to allow you to educate your customer, define their problem, and come up with a solution. So in my day-to-day, I'm a bit unique in that I think it doesn't matter what I'm selling. I could sell you a pencil. And the same structure that I will always follow will be, what's your current state, right? What's your desired state? What is required? What are your required capabilities to get to that desired state? And let's back in towards a future state. Everything else is ancillary. You work with your resources, you bring in who needs to be brought in at the right time. But as long as you get that first discovery down and you're just focusing on solving your customers' problems, that is value-based selling, right? So I think we get so caught up in the methodologies that I would break it down that simply for your customer. And so further, you'll see a lot of people follow specific BANT or checklists that kind of box you in to just asking one word or one word answer questions, right? You want to keep everything open-ended, conversational, and really just be seen as a consultant. So that's my take on that, right? I think it's different. I think everyone has a unique style, but I stick to the heart of the matter of my customer giving me their time. So how can I bring the value specifically that they need and find other areas that I can partner in the future?
Great, thank you. That's awesome. Great insight. So we have time for one more very quick question and very quick answer. So the last method that we'll cover is centered on achieving competitive sales goals. So what are some ways you plan and execute to achieve your quarterly goals? And then we'll get right into questions from the audience. Janae, would you like to take that, or?
Oh yeah, sure. I'll take it. And I can tie it back to what I was talking about earlier, and I'll try to keep it as brief as possible because it comes back to data and planning. And obviously I'm very passionate about that. But, I think you do need to come up with a plan. There's an annual plan, there's a quarterly plan. I look at my year and I look at my big number, but I also look at the cyclical nature of my quarterly number, right? So I have one quarter that's heavily weighted in terms of quota versus others, and others are lighter, right? And I want to hit my quota every quarter, and I want to hit my annual number. And so I go back and I look at the quota, the pipeline. I look at the historical deal size in the territory, right? So I'm going back to that $1 million quota. It would be great to do my number in one deal. But if I can't, I say, okay, I might need to have one $500,000 deal, and then 2 or 3 mid-sized deals, and the rest can be made up in small deals. So I break it down in terms of deals that I see in the pipeline and deals that I believe I can get based on that plan I laid out, and go from there. And then by looking at how my customers typically buy, if I see any outliers or in any scenario where the customer's timeline doesn't necessarily align with our quarterly objectives, I work with my team to come up with some creative ways to accelerate that sales cycle, and then put all resources on that to make sure that we're aligned internally, and then have as many cadences with the customer as possible to make sure that there's mutual agreement and alignment around pursuing that deadline. And it'll end up being a win-win for everyone. So I say go back to that plan and put all your resources together to make it happen.
Great. Thank you so much, Janae. So, all right. So it's now time for the audience to ask us some questions. So let's see. All right. Okay. So Miracle, what was your biggest challenge starting out in sales? And do you have any advice for the entry-level Sistas in sales who have never done sales before now? Well, the first thing I would say is I was going to mention this at the end, but make sure you go to the booth the Salesforce booth when you're done with this and start talking to some of the recruiters. One of the things you want to just make sure that you have certain, competencies, such as being able to do presentations, being able to do calculations, and being very articulate and having a drive. So head over to our booth and start talking to people who can perhaps help you get into Salesforce. I have the little commercial. It's an excellent company. I've worked at IBM. I've worked at Oracle. I've worked at HP, and I cannot tell you this anything greater than where I am now, Salesforce. All right. So I took that question. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, so here's a question from Sharia Reed. What if you don't have the key wins to highlight your talent? I'm a systems integrator for Salesforce DC, building a practice from scratch. Any advice would be helpful, as B2B and alliances co-selling is very different than B2C. Would one of you ladies like to take that?
So just to make sure, yeah, I can jump in here.
Okay.
I think if you're coming in as a technical persona, or you have that experience already, you're already very valuable in sales. Sometimes I think that we get caught up in the fact that we don't have experience or the wins behind us, but you have experience learning very complex information. And maybe the only thing you need to brush up on is sales methodologies, right? How does a sales process flow? And you're able to maybe apply to those very technical roles, as long as you have those soft interpersonal skills. So I would, if I were you, I would just work on the interpersonal, and you could be extremely valuable to a company with your mind.
Great, thank you, Brittany. So here's a question from Vandy. Do you have any tips for driving urgency to close deals? Isn't that a wonderful one? I would recommend, like the ladies shared before, start with the customer in mind. You always work from the perspective of the customer. And when you probe and you discover what their needs are, what they're trying to accomplish, and you stay focused on that and what value they're going to get out of it, that can help drive the sale. There's nothing that we can really do on our end. Our quota does not matter. Our quota does not matter to the customer. Our quarter end does not matter to the customer. What matters to them is how are they going to use your technology or whatever it is you're selling to help them achieve their mission. So focus on them. Of course, do your probing, ask about timelines and things of that nature. Understand what their procurement process and cycle are, so that you can tie certain milestones that are important to them to their procurement process, but it's always about them. So let's see, I think we have time for, I think that's the last time, that's the end. I don't think we have time for any more questions because we're coming up to time, but feel free to reach out to us. I think in our profiles, you should see our LinkedIn profiles. So feel free to reach out to us. I did mention before that we have a booth here. So please, we encourage you to hop into the booth, make yourself known, ask some more questions there. Hopefully what we talked about today will give you some food for thought. The 3 sales methodologies, there are many different ones out there, but whether it's value-based selling or competitive quotas or it's data, again, start with the customer in mind. And that will really be the way that you will get to close deals, because you're focused on them and not yourself. So again, feel free to leave your comments in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us. And Salesforce, I'll plug again, is a great place to work, great organization with great products. And we are helping our customers worldwide solve their business problems. So maybe you'll join us one day. Thank you very much, ladies, for participating today. And thank you, sisters, for joining.